All right, NFC North fans. Sadly, the season comes to an end, and we salute you, Chicago. It was a valiant effort. You tried your best, but the NFC West was just too good this year. It's over for the NFC North, which means this is our last show until free agency. So we have a lot to cover. We definitely got to talk about that Bears game. We probably should make our predictions for the NFC Championship, even though it doesn't necessarily have an NFC North team into it. And then we got to talk about some coaching changes within the NFC North. Let me bring in the fellas. We got Levigus, we got Bass, we got Nick, and we got Christian. Fellas, so good to see you. I don't know why I waste my time putting the order in, and it just doesn't matter as soon as I come back. Nick, brother, how you doing, man?
Well, I know we talked about hopefully playing each other in the NFC Championship. That's not happening for either of us, but
No.
I know it's like a lot of people have like come up to me or like on social and been like, "Yo, like why are you not like more upset?" And I'm like, "We had such low expectations this year. Like no one thought we would win more than 8 games. No one thought we'd win the North. No one thought we'd win a playoff game. Obviously that all kind of falls in a domino order. So I am super happy with how this season turned out. But I mean, yeah, it stinks that we're not playing in it. But we took the Rams to overtime. We took them to the very end. Like it was an absolute dogfight the entire time. Our defense did a great job. And yeah, again, it stinks, but I'm super proud of this team. And, you know, the future is looking pretty darn bright. We got a lot of our core coming back together. And if we can stay healthy next year, I mean, the team's looking better. I know we have a tough schedule, but at the end of the day, I'm super pumped about this Bears team. I thought they did a great job.
Well, I mean, I look at the Bears, and obviously we're getting ahead of our skis here, talking about draft, which is a while away, but why not just draft all defensive players at this point? You know, the offense is in a good spot. You got a good offensive line. You got the quarterback, got the running back, the receivers. Like, to me, just draft mostly defense and call it a day. Go fix that side of the ball, really. So I think the Bears are in a good spot, although it is tough. I mean, we watched teams like the Commanders fall apart in 1 year, so who knows?
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. We don't have a guy named Dan Quinn as our head coach, though. So we're doing a little bit better than Washington. But yeah, electric game this past weekend in Bears fashion, cardiac Bears. Ryan Poles talked about it today. He's like, yeah, we want to stop doing that. So, but what a great game it was. I think that everyone in here, we were kind of talking about it before, can agree that it was a pretty exciting game to say the least. And yeah, the entire North's out of it now, but the North represented all the way to the divisional round, and it was pretty electric year for the entire division.
Yeah, I would say overall, a great year for the division. We got a playoff matchup between the Bears and the Packers, which definitely was fantastic. Bass, I know you're gearing up for a snowstorm over there, but other than that, how's things going for you?
Good. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This is a monumental hate watch party I had over the weekend. So, like, I'm not even gonna lie. You know, I jumped into Nick's show, said what's up. You know, credit to Nick. Obviously, I want him to be happy. But it was great seeing that result. That end result. Hey, if it was flip flopped, you'd be doing the same damn thing. Every Bears fan would. So it's all in good fun. But overall, yeah, it was really really great game.
Yeah, absolutely. Guess how you doing, brother? It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm doing great, And I was actually rooting for the Bears. I want to see them get one more step, and that was it. Then they could have lost after that. But I mean, just seeing how they don't go for the field goals all the time. They're always going for them fourth down, turns into interceptions. Like in those conditions, in that spot, in that weather, just take the 3 points. Obviously then it comes bites them in the ass. But that's the way they play all year. Then that's who they are. You live by the sword, you die by it. But Nick, I'm going to ask you with DJ Moore and that little effort there at the end of that and that overtime throw. Looks like he cut the route the wrong way. Looks like he was kind of half-assed. And maybe he was tired. Maybe he was hurt. I haven't heard anything that he actually is hurt. But how has he been doing that stuff all year long or what?
No, I mean, like, so he's been dealing with a knee injury all year. He's been on the injury report every single week, always as limited. And he took a pretty big shot at the beginning of the game where he landed awkwardly. And you could see that he was a little bit slower the rest of the game. But if you're hurt, like, don't go out there and play. Like Ja'Day Walker, Colston Loveland, all those guys have been doing a great job backing. I mean, Colston Loveland's been a rock star, but I'm talking about Ja'Day Walker, who actually wasn't even active, which I thought was kind of weird. But overall, I don't think that he should have been out there if he was that banged up. I know that he had a obviously a few big plays in the game, which has been great. But no, it was definitely, he was running slower than he usually does. Ben Johnson took the blame today. Caleb took the blame yesterday. I mean, everyone's just kind of defending him because he's not even talking to the media right now. And everyone's kind of deflecting that conversation right now. But at the end of the day, I think that he shouldn't have been out there. He definitely ran slow. If he would have been full steam ahead, I think he would have had a chance to at least swat away at the ball or catch it. So a spade's a spade. They're saying that he didn't do anything wrong. But as a fan, it's kind of like, I don't know. It looked like he pretty much slowed down the entire way there. So pretty frustrating to say the least.
100%.
Christian, how you doing, man?
And no complaints. Lions been out for a while. I know we're going to address it later. We end up getting the OC. So not going to lie, it's not who I wanted, but it's just more like, kind of what our mind said. I don't know as much sports about football as best as he does, but I'm still gonna smile until next season. And if you guys see me, with scratches and everything else, I'm shredding some of my Lions gear. Then it might just be might just be a little rough.
Oh man. Well, hey, we were talking about how the Commanders fell off in a year. The Lions have kind of had a quick decline here over the last couple of years too. So it could happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. Just because you're a young team with a bright future, or seemingly bright future, things can change quickly, and you got to take advantage of the opportunity when it's there. The Bears tried their best, man. Overtime with the Rams. I know the Rams were my preseason pick to go to the Super Bowl. I think they were a lot of people's preseason picks. They have a fantastic quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who might be the MVP, and they also could win the Super Bowl very easily. So this was a good team. Hell of a season by the Bears. I'll go around the roundtable, I guess, and ask you guys your thoughts on the games. Nick, I'm going to leave you for last because you're going to go a little bit more in depth on things. Bass, I'll actually start with you on this one. You were watching the game. Kudos to you for admitting that. You got the result that you wanted. But ultimately, what did you think of this game? How impressed were you with the Bears this season overall as well?
I hate to say it, but I was. I mean, Nick, like you said, this is all a kind of a shock, a surprise. Like a lot of people had them at like 8 wins. So for them to win, not only win the division, but win a playoff game against the Packers and go into this game against a very good Rams team, take that to overtime, it is impressive. I can't come on here and say it's not impressive or that Caleb Williams didn't take a step up here in year 2, because he definitely did. Now I still have, my concerns with him, but at the end of the day, he's fun to watch. I mean, as much as that, I hate saying that, it is fun to watch, especially that play to get them into overtime. And I was talking about this with the panelists pre-show, that if it took that much, like it was so improbable to get that final touchdown to, was it Cole Kmet? Everything that went into that, I fully thought, like, you go for 2 there. Like I don't want to say luck, because obviously, it takes a lot of skill to even get that ball to that position with that much pressure backpedaling. But if you had per se that much luck to have that result on that final play, what's stopping you for getting 2 points and 2 yards and you just end the game? I don't know. That's what I looked at it as. I thought they should have went for 2, and that's even after the end result. But overall, yeah, super, super fun game to watch. And the Bears are going to be a force, moving forward, because Ben Johnson proved that he's a terrific coach. He knows what he's doing there in Chicago. He's setting the team up well. And, I'm just going to come on here and be completely honest about it. I'm happy that the rivalry is seemingly back. I'm excited for 2026. Hopefully both teams can remain healthy. We can get back after it and continue what is the great rivalry in the NFC North.
Well, one of the questions we had coming into the season, Bass, was Caleb Williams. Is he truly a franchise quarterback? Was it a bust situation? We always judge these quarterbacks seemingly way too early. And even this year, it started out a little bit rocky. It definitely did. But as the season went along, it seemed to get better. Now, obviously, there's, some accuracy things that can be cleaned up. But do you believe that the Bears found their franchise quarterback?
I think for right now, nothing points that they didn't, or at least that he's going to have multiple years to prove otherwise. Now, yeah, the completion thing's an issue. You see him make crazy throws, but then he goes and misses the easy ones. I think a lot of that still has to be cleaned up. And he has, the offense going for him, tons of weapons, a new weapon in Loveland who came onto the scene really heavy in the end of the season. You have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. That's going to help any young quarterback. But you do look at some of the risks that he does take, and sometimes they do pay off, which we've seen it many times this year. But when you look at this game, I know the first interception, Rome should have caught a touchdown before that. So whatever you think of that. The second one, definitely on him. The one in overtime, yeah, we could talk about DJ Moore, but I just don't see the risk there. You already stopped them on defense. All you need is a field goal to win that game. Even if DJ is continuing that route, I just don't really see the risk there and taking that shot there. So there's some things that need to clean up. He needs to clean up, controlling the football and not turning it over. But I don't foresee the Caleb project for any reason ending in the next few years unless he proves us otherwise.
All right. Well, Christian, talk to me about the game. What'd you see in that game, and how impressed are you with the Bears overall in their season?
To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. Just for me being a Lions fan, I can't even. I would love to hate on them, but it just showed, like what you said, stated earlier. It's like Caleb Williams definitely this season. Now I can't say anything about next season, but definitely this season he showed that he may not be a franchise QB, but he definitely shown that he shows promise and that definitely potential, because the Rams are the Rams, and like the Rams are showing that all preseason everything. People are like, man, Stafford's just injured. Stafford just injury prone. Stafford needs to call it. I'm not seeing any of this injury prone. Stafford, is fighting for the MVP and the Super Bowl yet again. And it's like, man, you just looking good. But all in all, that game was nice. Game was very good. I thought it was over when Caleb started running and doing all this stuff. And the whole time I'm like doing this at the watching TV. I don't know why. But then when he actually threw the ball and the guy caught it, my mouth just dropped. I'm like, dude, I hate the fact that the Lions got to play him twice a year. It's like, it was crazy, but I definitely, it made me admire him a bit more, because it was like, yeah, he's definitely here to stay. He's definitely, going to give the team a run for their money. And with the Lions being fourth in the division, it's like, and yeah, we did beat Chicago twice, but it's just more like, Caleb, if he continues to play better, then he's definitely going to give everybody a run for his money. But with this game, it just showed that like the Bears definitely deserve being first. And if they keep going, then they might even make it further than any team in the NFC North has made it in a while.
Let me ask you this. The trade that will always be looked through the microscope. You guys are, another year removed from the Stafford Goff trade, and obviously it netted you guys a lot of players, but the Rams go on to win another Super Bowl with Stafford this year. Does that mean that you guys lost the trade, or is it still a win-win in your opinion?
We already lost. I already came to glimpse with that. I was more just like I didn't just want to say it out loud, but we lost. But once Stafford actually won the first Super Bowl, and then it's like, yeah, you got Sam Laporta, but now he's nursing a back injury, and you don't know what his future is going to hold. So he might just play 5 games, out for 5. Play 1 game, out for 2. So you never really know how that's going to, because back injuries, especially back injuries, period, but back injuries of NFL players are sometimes not even just season injuries, career injury. So that was one thing. Then it's like, yeah, you got all these players, and you just got Jared Goff, and I still admire Jared Goff, but it's just more like you guys, and somebody just said it earlier, it's like we haven't won a playoff game in 730 days. And it's like, the Rams won the Super Bowl and our contention to making another Super Bowl, and it's just like, it's like, man, we got close a couple years ago, and it's just like you have to. I feel like I pray that I'm wrong, but I feel like that's probably as far as we're going to get, especially with everybody's retiring. A lot of these people, these injuries are starting to catch up. Teams are moving on, and it also feels like a lot of people aren't bought into the Dan Campbell mentality anymore. I think that's the thing that really messes us up, because let's be honest, like everybody in here been paying attention to a lot of stuff. Like you pay attention like 2-3 years ago, nobody said anything about Dan Campbell. Nobody had one word. Now this year alone, everybody's been like, what is the Dan Campbell mentality? What does this mean? everybody's going on here going like making subliminal messages left and right. And it's like this would have never happened 2-3 years ago. So it's like I don't feel like the players are bought in anymore.
Yeah, I don't know that it's ever a good thing when your star wide receiver has to come out and defend your head coach in the offseason on his own podcast, but we'll see how it goes. Lepagus, thoughts, man? Minnesota Vikings fan, obviously sitting back. Your team's out of the playoffs, although, again, you guys did end very, very strong. But overall, watching this game, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Bears defense really impressed me the most, just hanging in there, keeping the Rams, where they kept them in check the majority of the game. I know the weather wasn't great, the snow coming down, it was cold. But Ben Johnson, man, that dude just loves rolling the dice. The fourth down going for, already mentioned earlier, but take the points in that in those conditions. Just get on the board, and you're not having to make these miracle throws late in games. But that's the way he played all season. I know watched enough Bears games to know if that's who Ben Johnson is. If he's just like Dan Campbell, loves gambling all the time and rolling the dice. But that's the impression I got. Saw it last week. But again, Caleb Williams, to me, he earned my respect. I think he is definitely a franchise quarterback. The big plays he makes in those big time situations, it's huge. And I don't think he gets enough credit about how he handled himself at the podium after that game. He wasn't pointing fingers. He wasn't saying anything bad about DJ Moore. He took it all on him, and that's a leader of a franchise. And that, to me, just shows that he can be the guy for this Bears team. And having Ben Johnson on this Bears team for the next, how many years, next decade, the Bears are always going to be in it. But every season's different. Every season has its own story. You don't know who's going to get hurt, who's going to emerge, who's going to fall back. So you can't just go ahead and say Bears are going to be, number one in the North again next year. Every year is different. So I respect the Bears. I don't think they're going to be the laughing stock of the North anymore, but I'm not going to crown them again for next year.
I think it's a pretty measured take. Nick, all right, man, listen, your team was involved. Sure, you had a hell of a lot of fun throughout this playoff run. Normally, you guys are sitting back watching other teams get busy in the North, and it was you guys that took it the furthest this year, and you got to reap those benefits, but it all comes to an end. Talk to me about what you saw from your Chicago Bears this past weekend.
I just saw resilience, man. Like, this team just didn't give up, doesn't give up, and that's exactly what we've been missing for years. Kevin Byard said it so well earlier this season after, I think, the Bears' 5th or 6th comeback win. He's like, last year, we would have given up entering the fourth quarter if we were down. That's just the mentality of the team. And this team going against a guy that's considerably an MVP candidate, if not the MVP, in Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, who was 9-5 in the postseason, walking into Soldier Field in 6-2 all time against Dennis Allen-led defenses, and probably the most complete roster in the NFL. I mean, they almost lost to the Chicago Bears, who were dealing with a ton of injuries. They were dealing a first-time head coach. Just Caleb Williams being in the playoffs and learning to be in the playoffs. Yeah, he threw 5 picks. I'm not going to, a spade is a spade. Like, he struggled in that category. But also just this team just had confidence and energy, and they stayed in it the whole time. If they got behind, they found a way to catch back up. That's why you forced overtime. And that throw from Caleb Williams to Cole Kmet was absolutely electric. That it had a 17.2% completion or chance to be thrown and completed or something like that. Saw the stats somewhere on X, and I was just like, yeah, this team just doesn't give up. If they see an opportunity, they just go for it. And sure, can luck be in there a little bit? Absolutely. But that's what this game is all about. And this team just showed everybody that they can keep up with the best. They don't let off the gas pedal. And that's what I saw in this game. Looking at the offensive side of things, yeah, Caleb did what he had to do. He ran the ball himself when he had to. He was playing with a bummed ankle from that he suffered against the Green Bay Packers. He also was spreading the ball out really well to his receivers. He was dealing with a ton of drops from Colston Loveland and also Roma Dunze, that one in the beginning that should have been a touchdown. Absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. Should have caught that ball. That's the Achilles heel of this Bears team, is also drops, by the way. That's been a problem all season long. Going a little bit more into it, that this team is now just, it sent a message that this is not the same old Bears. You look back at the 2018 team, it was all defense. There was no true identity on offense. They just kind of got by. And you lose one coordinator in Vic Fangio, the whole thing falls apart. This time around, you have a guy named Ben Johnson who is leading the way, a guy that owns the locker room so well. People want to play for this guy. They believe in him. He takes accountability when he feels it's on him. He also has helped his team progress tremendously over one season. And this was supposed to be a growing year. And you went against the LA Rams, a complete team with a ton of veterans with playoff experience, and went out there and showed the world, like, we are here to play. We can keep up with the best of them. I think that right now with this Chicago Bears team, we talked about in the beginning, like, they need to address it on defense. They need to go out and draft a ton of guys. They need to bring back Kevin Byard. They need to make sure that they do what they have to do in order to have a deep but a strong defense for Dennis Allen. This wasn't entirely his defense. A lot of it was pieces from before. You're probably going to see some guys leave this year. But with that, that's going to complete this entire team. The expectation was you weren't even supposed to be where you were this year, and that Bears did that. So I'm super stoked about what this team has to put out there. And I think every team should be a little bit more nervous playing the Bears moving forward. Like, it's not a guaranteed win anymore. Like, they showed that they can keep up with the best and go all the way to the end. And if you give the Bears any amount of time, they could do anything with that. So I'm super proud of this team. What they did Sunday night against the Rams was electric. Obviously, I wish it was a win. This team, though, just put themselves on the map, and I couldn't be more excited for next year, considering our young core is mainly together. Our coordinators, which Ben Johnson is our main play caller, Dennis Allen, our defensive play caller, both are staying. Dennis Allen's not getting a head coaching opportunity anywhere. I'm sorry. He's failed at it twice. Some guys are just meant to be coordinators, but the guys that matter are staying. The players that are staying that matter are staying. And that's why I have so much hope for this team next year. And I already can't wait for this upcoming August for preseason, because it's going to be electric.
I mean, you may have your Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo situation, really. I mean, Spags is probably not ever going to be a head coach again, and he's just kind of the forever DC over there. I think that's what every good offensive head coach and play caller wants, is that defensive coordinator that just has the continuity, and maybe you found it with Allen for sure. So let me ask you this. You know, you guys are certainly ahead of schedule. I know that you did pick them to win the North, and maybe it seemed a little optimistic at the beginning of the season, but it ended up coming through. I think if I had told you that you would be one game away from the NFC Championship game, you'd be playing that game at home, and you lose by 3 in overtime, I think even you would have been pleasantly surprised by that week one if I would have told you that. So with all that being said, you do have a quarterback on a rookie deal. Is this the time to go all in now that you've seen this team take that major step forward? Would you like to see them go all in on the next couple of seasons while Caleb Williams is still inexpensive?
You have to. I mean, like, now that you've shown it, you have to go all in. Like, there's guys out there like Max Crosby that could hit the trade market, who Crosby's been super active on social, how much he's been impressed by Caleb Williams, even during the season. I think that the Bears need to make a win now move. You have a super young core that's still under contract. Your offensive line still has another 2 full seasons together before you have to go out and re-sign Darnell Wright. You still have to figure out your left tackle situation with Ozzie Trapillo hurt. But this team has the core right now that your defensive back room is under contract, minus a few guys. Your wide receiver room is entirely under contract. Your running back room still has next season, which Kyle Monangai has another 3 seasons after this one. This Bears team has the win now core with a few pieces missing. I think they have to go all in this upcoming offseason. You have that 2 to 3 year gap where you can go out and get it done and then pay Caleb, but hopefully you win a Super Bowl or 2 within there. I think it is a win now time, though, for the Bears.
Oh, Max Crosby in Chicago. You guys, once upon a time, you made a trade for a Raider edge rusher, so maybe it could happen again. The old Khalil Mack move. All right, let me ask you this. So DJ Moore, I don't know. From the outside looking in, it seems like he's been a bit of a malcontent on and off this season. Like he's been disengaged at times, and this even goes back to a little bit of last year. I'm a big DJ Moore fan, but my gosh, man, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading the situation wrong, but to see that play where, you know, the interception's thrown and maybe he gave up on it, maybe he didn't talk to the media. Do you think there's a possibility they move on from him, and should they move on from him this offseason?
You know, Ryan Poles during his press conference today did kind of hint at that. He was talking about DJ Moore. So a reporter asked, like, why is DJ not talking to the media? Has anyone heard from him? Both Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles deflected that question. And then when Ryan Poles he kind of started going into it, and he said, we're going to have some difficult decisions this offseason when it comes to the roster. And guess who's the highest paid guy on the roster that didn't even have 700 receiving yards this year? DJ Moore. And they can save a ton of money The Raiders also might want a veteran wide receiver. They have a lot of money in cap right now. Tom Brady saw DJ Moore play multiple times this year while being a Fox broadcast. Just putting it out there. I would love if it was an opportunity, because also for both teams, the caps wouldn't be too much different. The Raiders would save some money, but I think it would be like a $7 or $8 million increase for the Bears, which you can just restructure some stuff. But again, not a expert on moving cap stuff around, but it would be absolutely electric, to say the least. I think that DJ Moore is definitely a guy to keep a very close eye on as a potential trade target this upcoming offseason.
Oh man, Moore and a couple first rounders for Crosby. That would be incredible. All right, well, we'll see what happens this offseason. I'm very excited to see what happens with the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk some offseason here in a minute, but first, we got to hear from our sponsor, Sleeper. Get a 100% deposit match of up to $100 when you use promo code RTS. You can still get your free $20 play as well when using that promo code. Here are the picks for the championship round. I got Davante Adams with more on the 50.5 receiving yards. I'm fading Sam Darnold at 234.5 passing yards. I do think Kenneth Walker gets in the end zone. They have an injury there to Zach Charbonnet, so Kenneth Walker really is truly their only back. And then Stidham, bless his heart, man, coming in as a backup. I do believe that he will throw an interception in the AFC Championship. So all of that, $10 to win 72. That is the play. You can tail us or you can fade us, but make sure you use promo code RTS to play Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy app out there. Link is pinned to the top of the description. We got a super chat or two to get to here, so let's do that. First one is from Chris Viking. He says, no dose. He is scared the Lions are back fourth and forever.
No Packers suck. He's growing. Chris is growing.
Well, just as you say that.
Chris.
Bears down. They lost. Packers and Lions suck. Skull. So every week, you can count on Chris Viking to come through with exactly that and let you know that your team sucks and he is a Viking fan. All right. Let's also hear from our sponsor over at RotoWire, the best tandem fantasy football app out there. But with RotoWire, you can also make sure your degenerate picks on Sleeper can be covered through their AI algorithm. If you go to Picks and Props, Daily Fantasy, you go to Sleeper, you got your picks right here. And, well, Jared Stidham, they don't like him on the rushing yards. They're fading him there. They got Stevenson with less than 49.5 rushing yards. They got Davante Adams with more than 47.5 receiving yards. Their AI algorithm for the picks, regardless of who you use, fantastic. Definitely won some money with them. So check them out. Promo code RTS to get your 15% off. RotoWire link is pinned in the description. And then I got one more thing to show y'all. Covered. If you haven't checked out Covered yet, these guys are fantastic. It's a newer app out there. It's actually meant to help you manage your finances. But right now, Bears fans, you've got a chance to win a Caleb Williams signed helmet. And the way that you do that is you sign up using promo code Ball Don't Lie. It's absolutely free to do, so you can download the app. Link is also in the description for that. But with that, you can play games like Flappy Birds, 21, what have you. You have 15 minutes a day free play. You get the high score. By the time the Super Bowl rolls around, you would be walking away with a Caleb Williams helmet. You can also win tickets to the Super Bowl. So make sure to check out Covered. They're a phenomenal sponsor, and they will help you with your finances as well. But at the very least, as a Bears fan, gosh, you should be playing video games, passing the time, and trying to win a Caleb Williams signed helmet. All right, fellas, let's get back to it here. Let's talk a little bit about the offseason. There has been some movement already with the coaching staffs. We got to get into it. So first, we're going to start with you, Lupius. Brian Flores had a second interview with the Steelers. I don't know about you, but when I look at Flores, I feel like that's the perfect coach for that franchise. Very Tomlin-esque. A little bit younger. I think he got screwed as a head coach in Miami. First of all, like let that be known. Sorry that the guy wanted to win football games and wasn't willing to tank I think that's probably like the most stand-up thing you could ever want from your coach. Oh, and also he was a little mean to Tua, who ended up being a bit of a bust over there in Miami. Anyways, been phenomenal on the defensive side. I know you guys don't want to lose him, but man, there sure is that possibility. Talk to me about what's going on with Flores and what is the latest that you're hearing over in Viking land.
Yeah, and this was, like you said, his second interview. This one was in person. He left without them, offering him a deal. But yeah, the perfect fit. You mentioned it. He was their linebackers coach in 2022. Some of the same personnel's there. He knows the players. It just seems like he's the perfect fit for Pittsburgh Steelers. Always having a strong attacking defense, and he's also like in the age range. They always hire these younger coaches, keep him for 10 years. I know Mike McCarthy right now is kind of the odds-on favorite. I just saw that get dropped here not too long ago. But Flores makes so much more sense for me. He's 44, 42 years old. He can be there for 10 years. McCarthy's not going to be there for another 10, 15 years. He's going to be in the ground. So Flores just makes so much sense. The pieces are there. The environment's there. He just screams like such a match. And I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. But I tell you what, this is the domino that needs to fall for these Minnesota Vikings as we prepare for our offseason here. If he's our defensive coordinator, we can start looking at guys who fit his scheme, who might make sense. But if he goes somewhere else, I mean, Deontay Jones is getting interviews with like every single team out there for their defensive coordinator. He's kind of the next man up. So what do we do after this? It's hard to say who should even target in the draft, who we should go after in free agency until we know if Brian Flores is going to be back or not. And he is the reason we went on this 5-game win streak. Even when, the offense was struggling. They were so bad. It was pathetic. It was Flores that kept this team in it. His defense was making plays. We went with Max freaking Brosmer as our quarterback. I mean, that shouldn't have happened. Brian Flores is that good. He deserves to be a head coach in this league. And I know there's the lawsuit and all the allegation. That's going on still hasn't really quite resolved, but it's time. And if he doesn't get it now, I just don't know. I mean, this feels like this is the last chance. The Steelers is the last chance for him to get a job. This coaching side, he's not been linked to anything else. So this to me is the match. If he doesn't get it, then I think he's coming back to Minnesota.
Well, listen, it doesn't matter if it's one bar or Luppagus. You can definitely expect a solid one-liner from the Vikings content creator. My gosh, I agree. Listen, the Steelers' MO is always get a guy, keep him forever. It doesn't make sense to go with McCarthy, who's much older. He's been around. That seems like a pretty safe play, but only probably at max a 5-year play. I think that this is the move. Flores makes a ton of sense, and I think he deserves it. So we'll see what happens with that. But either way, if you guys have him back, I'm sure that you will welcome him with open arms for sure.
100%. And mouths.
All right, Christian, let's talk about this offensive coordinator. You guys hired Drew Petzing from the Cardinals. There was a lot of options out there. Obviously, McDaniel ends up going to the Chargers. There were some other interviews that you guys had. I think that Drew Petzing might be a bit of a letdown to the fan base. I know I was let down a little bit for you. Talk to me about what your thoughts are with this hire in Drew Petzing.
Well, a lot of people in the chat are cussing, so I'm not going to add to it. But I definitely had a lot of profanity at the first time because I said, who the heck is this guy? But then actually I started looking at it. I started looking at how he played in the Cardinals, and I was just like, yeah, you ranked 22nd. Then I started to use more profanity, but like I said, I'm not going to match the chat. But I definitely had some that I had to ask people, like, who is this guy? And then it was just like you guys should have did what you guys should have got Mike McDaniels. Like, I don't care what it is. You guys got to make as much money as it is. I can start OnlyFans and sell pictures of my feet or something. Like, we got to make this guy money so he can stay, because having him leave and then go to the Chargers of all things where they about to tax the mess out your salary is crazy. Like, you guys should have stayed here. We could have figured out the code, but it didn't make any sense to me. But as I said, it's just more like, if you look at it, it's like Arizona isn't the Lions. So it's like, yeah, Kyler Murray isn't Jared Goff. Jacoby Brissett isn't Jared Goff. Trey McBride isn't Samuel Porter or Brock Wright or whoever that the Lions are about to draft to fit his scheme, because we know at this point between 1 and 3 they're addressing the tight end position just to help him out. It was just more like he's good with play action and using the tight end. It's more like it's cool, but will that help us, because we just have so many needs on that offense now, and it's just like I didn't see it, but he just wasn't the name that I was thinking about. I was really thinking big name, but when he came out, I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe, you know, it's more to this guy than what it is, but I have to see it. I have to see it play out first. Because right now, like I said, I watched the Cardinals, but it was just more like, ooh, like what's going on with Kyler, Marvin Jones? You know, the OC can't control the fact that Marvin Jones is dropping passes, but he definitely made Trey McBride look like an all-star and things like that. So I felt more like, let's see what happens, but it's just more. I just feel like it's just more one of the things he was like. I think he said Ben Johnson was his best man during his wedding. So I think he probably got that deferral or something like that. I was like, referral, I'm sorry. And if I was just like, dude, if y'all really got somebody because he was the best man at somebody's wedding, we need to have a conversation, because this is not what I want these Lions to do. It's like, at the same time, y'all, come on, y'all, let's use our brains and think like athletes and think that, you know, you want to actually do something with Lions, be aggressive. And it's the only thing that, you know, I've always said this. I said this behind closed door, but I'm gonna say it in front of people. It's like, we're really aggressive on the field. We don't seem to be aggressive in the offseason, nor when it goes to addressing the OC or the defensive coordinator. We play really passive, but when it comes to playing on the field, you play really aggressive. And that's one thing that always bothered me with Dan Campbell. But maybe we'll get it this year or this offseason. So next season, we're not fourth, maybe at least chasing first. But once again, I have to see it for myself.
Well, I will say this. Obviously, I'm a part of the NFC West Roundtable, and favorite team is in the NFC West, so I have a little bit of a pulse on the Arizona Cardinals. Drew Petzing, they were definitely calling for his head in Arizona early on, because Kyler Murray couldn't execute the offense. And once Kyler Murray went down, all of a sudden that offense started humming. They were moving the ball like crazy. They had a ton of injuries. They were down to like their fifth string running back at a point, backup quarterback, obviously. And then even their receivers were hurt. And it just didn't matter. They were still putting up points and moving the ball pretty much at will, just because the offense was being executed there. So maybe there is something, you know, in Petzing. Maybe he actually isn't as bad as what Lions fans think. I get it. You know, McDaniel was the sexy name. Pretty much everybody wanted him, but he chose where he wanted to go. And it's clear that he passed on Baker. He passed on Hurts. Sounds like he might have passed on Goff, and he wanted to be with Justin Herbert. I don't know that you can really blame him for that. And, you know, I think that Petzing might actually be a pretty good option, but we'll see how it plays out for y'all.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's definitely James. Even with James Conner, like James Conner isn't David Montgomery. If I hope he stays, or Jahmyr Gibbs. So you guys made something, but it's just more. Like I said, I just have to see it with myself, because you could even I now see that names don't mean much, and it's like, you know, you can have a big name and then play that garbage. And even though for a while they were talking about Dan Orlovsky coming over here, I was like, damn. Just stay in your lane, bro. Just stay on ESPN. Like, I rock with you. I love you. But no.
Poor Dan's getting drug on Twitter too, man. You got to feel bad for him. All right. Well, listen, let's talk about another coaching change. Packers lose their defensive coordinator and Jeff Hafley. Did you expect this one, Bass? Like, did you think there was a real possibility he would be gone for real, or was this kind of a bit of a surprise for you?
If it wasn't this year, it would have been next year. From the moment he stepped onto the podium when the Packers hired him last season or 2 seasons ago, you kind of heard that this guy could be a coach. Like, you just kind of got that vibe from him. A true leader, a tape grinder, a guy that you could sit and just listen to him talk about football for 45 minutes. So I think the defense really looked up to him. And with John Eric Sullivan, he was one of our head scouts. And I forget his other titles with this team, but he was our scout for a very long time, since Ron Wolf. He scouted with Brian Gutekunst, who's obviously now our GM. Once the Dolphins hired him as their GM, it pretty much felt like the writing was on the wall once we heard Hafley was getting interviewed by the Dolphins, and he crushed the interviews. It's crazy because I've seen a lot of stuff online, because I follow a couple Dolphins creators. And it seems like a lot of Dolphins fans are looking at it and they're upset. Yet when you look at every Packers fan on Twitter or creator, we're all like, damn, wish we could have kept around for another year. So there's a little bit of different perspective there. I wish he could have stuck around for a year. at least one more year. I think his job was definitely unfinished with the Packers. You just trade for Micah Parsons. You don't even get a full year of that. And you saw how good this defense could be with Parsons healthy, everything else, still working there. So the fact that it's kind of felt like unfinished business, and Hafley even mentioned that, here with Parsons next year, I guarantee he's going to break the sack record. And it just kind of felt, and I don't blame him. Like, if you're going to get offered a head coaching gig as a coach, as a football, you're going to go take that. You're going to do what's best for you, your career, your family. So, hopefully Hafley does a good job over there in Miami. I think it's going to be very dependent on the offensive coordinator. But now, you wonder with the Packers, we're used to coordinators getting fired. We're used to the Joe Barrys, the Dom Capers, the Mike Pettins. We're used to all these guys where we're calling for their head and asking for him to be fired. And they finally end up being fired, like a lot of the time too late. And you're going, okay, how do we rebuild this thing from the ground up? But it's a little bit different now, because I don't think it has to be rebuilt. I think you need to get a guy that's well-versed, a guy that has a ton of experience. And, looking at the list of candidates, Lubbock, I'm sorry, but Brian Flores would be absolutely phenomenal for this defense. And there's other guys that just make a lot of sense in terms of experience. You have Sean McDermott, who is a terrific defensive coordinator in the past for the Eagles and the Panthers. And like you guys were mentioning a little bit ago, there's some guys that tried their case at head coach. Maybe they're just destined to be coordinators. And I feel like that's kind of what the Packers need, with a head coach that is offensive minded, like the Andy Reid's of Spagnuolo. You need a DC that, is kind of just okay with being that, because if you bring in an up and coming guy, well, you're going to be doing the same thing in 2 years, especially with the talent you have on the Packers defense. It's kind of hard, not to make that defense look good. Obviously, with injuries down the stretch, it didn't look good for sure. But without the injuries, I feel like it's going to be difficult for a young coordinator to come in here and not look good and get a head coaching attempt in a couple of years. They're going to be back at square one. So I think you kind of do have to look at the Raheem Morrises. Even someone like, I think Jim Leonard being up and coming, Brian Flores, Sean McDermott, even Jonathan Gannon. I don't want that, but even Jonathan Gannon, Jim Schwartz, those type of guys. Now, there is young options that the Packers have already met with. Durant Jones, Lubbock has already mentioned him. He's kind of interviewed with everyone, that's one of which the Green Bay Packers. That's an interesting thought, considering he's coached under Brian Flores, kind of the next guy up. Christian Parker, he's the defensive back coach for the Eagles. The Packers have met with him. He was with the Green Bay Packers defensive coaching staff from 2019 to 2020. He's a young up-and-coming guy. He's worked with, I believe, the Broncos and the Eagles defensive backs rooms, two rooms that have been at the top of the league when he was there. So there's a lot of different options. I'm very interested to see the route the Packers go, but I think any defensive coordinator, if it's a well-versed guy that maybe tried their case at head coaching, didn't like it, they're all going to want Green Bay just due to the structure. You get to come in, you get to control the whole defense, not have to worry about offense, because clearly that's something that didn't work too well if you were a head coach and someone like Sean McDermott or Raheem Morris, and you get Micah Parsons and a ton of other guys on this roster like Xavier McKinney, Edgerrin Cooper. Cornerback room's a little bit of an issue, so I do hope they go more defensive back, well-versed coach there. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens, and I hope the best for Jeff Hafley. But yeah, I do feel like the writing was kind of on the wall there.
So do you think it was a good hire by Miami then? I know you guys were bummed in losing Hafley, but that you're bummed in losing him as a coordinator.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a good hire as a head coach? Like, is that the consensus with Packers fans?
I think for morale and leadership, yes, but that's an open-ended question. And until they hire an OC, I can't really answer that, because Hafley's head coach at Boston College, right? Other than that, he's a DC. He helped with DC at Ohio State and now at Green Bay. So clearly a defensive guy. I think it really, really depends on who they bring into OC and who they bring in at quarterback. Do they complete the trifecta and go Malik Willis? Probably. They might. I think they're going to be in the race there. It's John Eric Sullivan. He knows Malik. He watched Malik. Hafley coached with Malik. I know it's on the defense different, but you're in the same locker room. So it really depends. You get an OC that knows how to utilize Malik's talents. There you go. I see Nick. Nick's ready. He's ready. What you ready for?
I think that you need a guy named Matt Eberflus. I think you should hire him. He's very good at defense. He did so good. They kicked him out of Chicago. He's still getting paid $7 million by the Bears next year. What a terrible contract.
You know why I'm pissed, Nick? Is because that's such a Packers thing, dude. They're gonna
I hope they do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Relentless Mikey said yes. Baz, hire Eberflus.
You guys want that so bad. No,
Please,
it
please do
does
it.
feel like a Packers thing. It really does. I would not be surprised if they at least interview him.
Xavier McKinney would be like, wow, this guy is a very smart coach. Very smart.
I doubt it.
Okay, well, you have fun with that, please. Thanks.
You guys did interview Gannon, though, right? Did you not?
Yes.
Or am I
Yeah, we
tripping?
did.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. Sorry, I forgot to put a check mark. next to him. I
Well,
have
okay.
the
So
whole
you
order.
you did talk about him briefly. You said you're not necessarily excited about it, but I mean, talk
Gives me a
about a
weird
guy who
vibe.
could shut down Petsig, right?
Yeah. He just gives me an odd vibe. I don't know, man. Jonathan, I mean, he fits the bill otherwise, like, former DC, the Eagles from 21-22, good defensive unit. He does fit that. I think there's a lot worse options available. There's a lot worse you could do, like an Eberflus. Let me get that straight. Yeah, I would take Jonathan Gannon over Eberflus, that's for sure. But I think there's a lot of better options as well. How about this? Instead of former Bears Eberflus, let's go with current Bear Al Harris, and we'll just bring him back to Green Bay. How about that?
No, you can't do that. I'm not going to allow it.
I don't think he
I'm
wants
going
to
to
be DC,
kick your
unfortunately.
tush if you try to do that. Not nice. Nope. Al Harris stays here. Thank you.
Well, you wanted it. Here it is.
There he is.
Matome says Skull and F the Packers. Well, I don't think that there's a better way to end
There's
the
plenty.
2025-2026 season than with a super chat in that direction, fellas. It was a hell of a season. I can't wait to do it again next year. I know that we'll be back a couple times. Free agency, we'll do a couple shows. We'll do a couple shows during the draft, and then we'll be back in the full swing of things around August next year. But really appreciate doing this season with you guys. It was a ton of fun. Love watching the channel grow. Can't wait to be back next year. So for one last time, until we get to free agency, I'm your host, Jesse, signing out for Bass, Nick, Lupagus, and Christian. Fellas, it was a great time. Everybody in the chat, much love. Talk soon. Peace.
Ta-ta for now.